Hello and welcome to another exciting Blender tutorial. Today we're going to be jumping in and making a cool planet city shader thing. Let's do it. Okay, so today what I thought would be fun would be to basically make a planet that was all city. So, you know, from space, lots of little lights, lots of interesting little detail, maybe seeing some of the mechanical stuff shining. Apologies for the different sound quality today. I'm in a different environment, so it's a bit echoey. I'll try and clean it up as best I can in post when I put this together, but I just wanted to apologize up front. It's not the normal quality, so if you're just checking the channel out for the first time, don't fear, all the videos aren't like this. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just create a planet. So let's Shift A, and we're gonna go for a UV sphere. We'll scale it up, and I'll just grab it up. I'll kind of keep it fully in my view for now, just so we can see all of it. I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna shade smooth. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to rendered view. And I don't have any lights or anything in my scene, so I've just deleted everything out. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to, let's see, I'll split my view. And I will open up my shader editor. I'm not working with my normal mouse or anything today, so I'm like, I'm all over the place. Let's go ahead and get our view set up a bit nicer. So I'm just going to zoom in here. And let's see, I'm gonna take my camera, I'm gonna come down to the camera tab, go to my viewport display, come to passport 2, and I'm gonna turn it all the way up. I'm also gonna turn off my handles and grid lines just so it's very clean, and I'll hit the T key to get rid of that side window thing. So now it's just very clean. So now I'm gonna go over to my world shader. We're just gonna get some space. So I'm gonna type in noise. If you've watched many of my tutorials, you know we do this a lot. Let's get a color ramp. And so we'll take the noise texture. All right, so let's take our noise texture. I'm gonna take the factor and I'm gonna drag it into the color ramp, and then I'm gonna take my background, just make myself a little bit of room, and I'll drag the color into the color. And let that update. I'm going to turn all these back off. And I'll just drag my ramp over, and I'll increase my scale, go way up to like 600 is usually what I do. And I'll just take this, I'll keep pulling it, and until we get some space. Pretty good. All right, now let's go ahead and get a focal point. So we've got a sun, let's say, off in the distance. It's creating, you know, a strong light on one side of our planet. So let's hit Shift A. We're going to grab a light. We're going to grab a sunlight, and I'm just going to rotate it just around like that. Start with, let's start with the Voronoi, and let's see what it looks like. So I'll take the Voronoi, and I'll take the distance in. Let's pipe this into the emission just to get a clear sense of it. And I'll just have a look at the different types we get. I think if we could double it up. So if I take two Voronoi textures and I take the distance from the first one and plug it into the vector of the second, and then I take the distance and plug it into the emission strength, we're going to get these concentric circles. I'll get a color ramp so we can really see it. It's a great little technique if you're not used to doing that. Voronoi, if you take the distance value and plug it into the vector, you can get really cool double up. You can do that with a lot of the different nodes. It doesn't really work as well with color and position, but distance does it really nicely. I'll just drag this in so we can see what's going on. So we got these nice concentric circles. The second Voronoi controls the inner ones, so how many are on the inside and how do they work. And this one controls the overall pattern. So I like the randomness, and I like the scale. I might go for, I don't know, something like this. Okay, so I've got this base sort of circle world thing. So now what I'm going to do is kind of begin to insert some kind of like, you know, I'm going to say circuitry, but you know how it is, like the geometric sort of irregularities to it that make it look like it's built up, make it look like it's sort of constructed and technical, right? A great way to kind of create really nice irregularities when you're working on a procedural shader is to introduce different types of noise values into the vector of your shader. So the vector is the position. It tells Blender how to position the texture in 3D space. We're going to grab a mix RGB, and I'm going to grab a texture coordinate node. The texture coordinate node is generating our vectors. So I'm going to take the generated coordinate and plug it in, and nothing will change because that's what it's using by default. But we need this in order to mix it in with something else. So I'm going to take the generated and stick it into the first color, and I'll take this, stick it in colors. Now, don't be confused. I'm plugging this into color, right? It's not a color. It's a vector, right? But a color is just, well, it's 4 numbers, right? It's R, G, B, so red, green, blue, and then the alpha channel. So it's this value of 4 numbers. You can see that if you click it, you get the RGB and RGB and A. So right now this vector is 0.5, 0.5, 0.51. So when I mix a color, I could mix a color into this, and I'm going to get, it's going to change those numbers, which changes how it's positioned on this sphere. Now with just a gray value, you know, we're basically just kind of changing the overall size of it. It's not very interesting, but although that looks pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to keep that. So we're going to do another one, Shift-D. And for the second one, what I want to do is I'm going to create another texture node. I'm going to create, I'll create a Veroni. We'll see what it does. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to switch to like a Manhattan, because you saw before we get like this boxy pattern of the Manhattan. And I'll take the distance and I'll plug it into the color here. And now what I can do is I can turn it off completely, but if I bring it up just a little bit, so if I hold down Shift, it'll move in smaller increments. You can see what it does is it starts to kind of break up and distort the shape of things. Now, if I turn my scale way up, you can see what we're going to get is this kind of, you know, really tiny, really fine geometric stuff. Now, if I turn the randomness off, it's going to be very ordered, which we kind of want. We want this sort of like ordered look. And I think I'm going to use this Veroni texture a second time. So what I want to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to, I think I'm going to create another color ramp and plug the distance into the factor. And then I'm going to multiply these together. So I'm going to mix RGB to basically mix this, what this looks like with what this is. So I'll show you it to you straight up. So we'll just go right into the emission. So this one, yeah, it just looks like that, right? So it's pretty straightforward. But I think it might be interesting. I'll switch this to constant, so it's not like a gradual fade between the two. And then let's take this and we'll combine these guys. So let's take this one, take this one. I'm going to turn my factor all the way up, and I'm going to switch this to multiply. We'll see what we get. All right, so it breaks things up even more. That's kind of cool. See what happens when we switch this to screen. And now I'm just playing around looking for a good value. I'm noticing that as I break up the vector of this one, it starts looking less mechanical. So I'm just a bit wary of, you know, I want to keep it mechanical looking. I don't want to lose that. So I'm going to switch that to constant so it's not a gradual fade again, so it's more hard-edged. And I'm also going to look at changing the scale of some of these to see what happens if it gets denser. And that's kind of cool. Turn the randomness down. What does that do for us? All right, so now let's think about how are we going to create lights and stuff on this thing. So, and how are we going to use this particular, you know, material. So I think one thing that'd be really cool would be to plug this into a bump and to see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this out of the emission and I'm going to create a bump node. Stick it in right here. And let's go into the height. And let's go into the normal. So we can turn this up. We're going to get some interesting stuff here with these bumps. Now let's go ahead and get a base color going for our planet. I'm going to turn it down and I'm going to go for a pretty high metallic value. And I'll take my specular and my roughness. I'll keep my roughness high because it's a planet. Like it's not going to reflect like that. And I want to do some kind of light pattern in this, I think. So I might take this same system. So let's grab another color ramp. Stick this here. Let's take our color, the same thing that's driving our bump, because it's good to kind of reuse patterns and stuff to kind of build up realism. So, and I'm going to take this and I will stick this into the, I'll try and base color first, and I'm just going to see what I can get out of this. Yeah, I think this is going to work nicely for us. Instead of white, I'm going to go down to like an off gray color, I think, and I'll take this off black, bring it up a touch. So there's a little bit of extra variation there. Let's take the same system, duplicate it, bring the same thing into this, and this time I'm going to put it into the emission strength, sorry. And then I'll take the emission and I'll turn it up a bit, just to like maybe we'll do like a blue color. And I'll switch this bottom node to black, so we're basically turning off the emission. So, and then, let's see. Now, what we can do with this is we can crunch this down, and we probably need to break it up even further, right? Now we could take the strength here. I could take this and slam it, go all the way up to 1 and like turn on bloom, and we're going to get some glow, which is going to be nice. But I'm thinking what we should do is probably have a different system. Let's go for another Verona, because I can get that sort of city texture. Okay, I'm going to switch this to Manhattan, and then I'm going to take a color ramp, and I'll Shift D, bring it down here. I'll take my distance and I'll plug it into the factor. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply it with this emission group. So I'm going to bring a mix RGB. Now again, when I say multiply, like remember it's math, right? So whenever I've got black, so the value of 0, in this case, this part of the shader will be black, this will be white. So this is all 0, this is all 1. Whenever you multiply any number by 0, you get 0. So it's a way of getting rid of something. So if I've got a bright emissive color and I want to get rid of it, I can use multiply to multiply that out wherever this is black. Okay, so drag the scale, and I'm going to see where I need to put this to get the result I want, because I want to get rid of a lot of the stuff here. I'm going to hit constant again, so it's a hard edge. Move this off, and yeah, cool. So now you can see we're just getting like a few specks. Now I can increase my scale, grab this off like so. What's interesting about these specks is that they're going to follow the lines that we've created. You can kind of see these dots are in circles, right? And it's because we're using this system and we're just multiplying this one on top of it. So we're using that pattern and then we're just removing stuff from it using multiply. Now I can take, because this is all going into the strength, right? This is not a color value. This is just a single floating point value that determines how strong things are. I could also turn this up a bit, and I could take a math node. All right, let's go multiply. So we're going to multiply the emission value by, I don't know, a larger number, like take it up to 3 or 4. You see, the higher this number goes, the more bloom we're going to get. So I could go up to like 50, right? And that's just like really, really strong bloom. And now I can turn my scale up as well, and then get these dots even smaller. And then I can turn this down to decide, you know, where I want them to be. It's probably a bit too much. Let's take this down to maybe 250. So they're like just, you know, pinpricks. It's not quite as nice. Let's try 100. What happens if we go smaller? Let's try 50. What does it look like at 50? What if I take my randomness off? Wow, that's kind of cool looking. All right, cool. So we got our mega centers, right? Like our sort of, you know, this sort of city glowing light thing. It's really kind of overpowering those. So what we need to do is now figure out how can we like reduce it. So how do we have like brighter areas, darker areas, and have some of these things fade off? And maybe where do we want to have these city lights? We might not want them across the entire thing. So let's think about this. We could probably use one of these guys. I'll just pipe in, let's see, which system would do it for us? I think maybe we could use this system here. So let's go for, I'll duplicate this color ramp. I'm going to set it to ease, and I'll take the distance and plug it into the factor. And then what I'll do is I'll take this one, bring it right over here. And let's just have a look at it. I'm going to pipe this into the emission strength. So this gives me slightly different groupings of brightness. So I can take this now and do the same thing. I can multiply. So I can come here, just grab these guys, make a little bit more room. Pipe this one here. We can take this one, pipe it into here, and then I can take this, instead of sending it to the emission strength, I can send it into here. And then I can take the value here, bring it back to the emission strength. And now we can use this to basically turn things down a bit. So it's not all like perfect, super bright lights. I'll try flipping it. What does that look like? All right, cool. So we got some neat stuff happening here. So yeah, now let's do some atmosphere. All right, so let's create some atmosphere for the sky. How would we do that? There's a lot of ways to do atmosphere. I think let's try selecting the sphere, and then hit Shift D. I'm going to scale it up a little bit, and then I'm going to take this sphere, this new one that we have. I'm going to come down to my materials. I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to turn on, create a new material. And I'm going to come here to options, and I'll take my blend mode and I'm going to turn it on to, let's see, alpha blend and none for my shadow. And actually I'll go alpha hashed. I think that might work a bit better. Then I'll come here and I'm going to grab a, let's see, what do I want? Let's grab a noise texture, and we'll plug the factor into the alpha. And then I'll grab a color ramp, like this, turn this up. These are going to be our clouds. I'll turn my distortion up. This distortion's quite cloud-like. And I'll bring this one down so we get like some solid opaque areas like that. And then I might take, oh, sorry, I want to keep my value up like that. I'll change the color here. So I might turn it down, give it a bit of a blue color. Turn my detail up, bring my roughness up as well. And my distortion. I'm going to take the specular down for these clouds, and I'll bring the roughness all the way up. I might actually Shift D, bring this up here, take my factor, stick it into the factor, and then take the color into the base color. And then I can use this to kind of drive that color as well. So come here, make that kind of a bluish dark color. Come here, make this like a bit of that. Drag this out, and then I'm going to get the kind of color variation. Now, last thing I probably want to do is put on a bit of that glowy sort of atmosphere. So what we can do is we can grab a Fresnel node, or actually a layer weight node, and with this one, I actually do this one in another material. So I'll Shift D, create one more sphere. I'll scale this one up just a touch more. And I'll come here and I'll just click that little double paper icon to create a new material. And in this new material, what I'll do is I'll get rid of my my noise, and I'll come in and I'm going to add a layer weight node. Okay, and then I'm going to take my let's see, the Fresnel, and I'll pipe it into the factor. And I'll take my emission and I'll turn it up. Go ahead and turn off all of our handles and stuff. And what basically this node does is it takes everything that's facing away from the camera and it shades it white, and everything that's close facing the camera it shades black. So you can get this nice fall off of like a glow kind of a thing. And let's see, what do I want to do? Let's take this and we'll go with the kind of greenish blue theme that we're working on. And I also want to kind of like back it off on one side. So just kind of have it in one place and not the other. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a gradient node, gradient texture node. I'm going to switch this to spherical. I'm going to add a texture coordinate node and a mapping node. Drop this in here. So, all right, so now I'm going to take a mix RGB, and I'm going to multiply these two together. So I'm going to take the factor of this, stick it into here. I'm going to switch this to multiply. And I'll turn it all the way up. And so now you can see it's on one side right there. So let's come over here, and we're going to take the rotation. Yeah, there we go. So we can adjust it with the position. There we go. That's what I wanted. And then we'll stick it up here so it kind of matches the light. Well, guys, I'm actually out of time. I got to wrap things up and get back into stuff. But thanks for joining me today. Hope that was a bit of fun. Hope you learned a few tricks and enjoyed the process. I'll make this full screen so you can really appreciate where we got to. A lot of the tricks and stuff we talked about today, you can apply in all kinds of projects and do some really, really interesting stuff with it. So yeah, I hope you really found it useful and interesting, and yeah, enjoy playing with these things in your own projects. So thanks for joining me today. And yeah, sorry again about the weird sound setup and stuff, but all right, everybody, I will catch you later. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and want to see more like it. Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe as well. Really appreciate all the support everyone's throwing my way. It's just awesome, and thanks for helping the channel grow. I will catch you later. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.